Now BBC News looks back at some of the biggest stories of 2025.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
Pope Leo XIV.
Coming in to slice the boat now. The police have come in to slice the boat.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Police have now lost control of this bit of Trafalgar Square.
We do not want you speaking. Shame on you.
I've been right about everything.
2025, a year once again defined by conflict. Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, the bombing of the nuclear facilities in Iran, global trade upended. Politics had hardened around the issues of migration, technology and debt. And at the centre of it all, in a world of 8 billion people, a man whose voice projected further and with more consequence than any other.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world.
What Donald Trump called Liberation Day was a flamboyant display of America First. Blue-collar workers from key swing states were invited to the White House Rose Garden to hear Mr. Trump lay out the basis for his so-called reciprocal tariffs. Economists question the theory there were tariffs imposed on a group of islands inhabited largely by penguins. But the stated message was clear. From now on, American jobs and manufacturing would come first.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike.
The president was refocusing on the Gulf states, where the emirs and wealthy benefactors were lining up. This new president was unapologetically transactional.
In the last few seconds, we have seen white smoke.
In late April, after a long illness, Pope Francis died. The cardinals were summoned to Rome for a funeral and a conclave. The crowds that gathered in anticipation were looking skywards towards a small chimney above the Sistine Chapel, waiting for a signal.
And there he is. Let's listen in.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
Peace be with you.
Once thought impregnable, the Louvre Museum was compromised in daylight and in less than 10 minutes. The thieves, disguised as maintenance workers, used a truck-mounted ladder to find their way into the Apollo Gallery. They stole 8 priceless crown jewels. Police made arrests, but weeks later the jewels, valued at over 80 million euros, were still perdu, lost. In Australia, a courtroom drama had the media riveted. Erin Patterson was found guilty of murdering 3 relatives and attempting to murder a 4th after serving them a beef Wellington lunch laced with lethal death cap mushrooms. Here in the UK, Labour's plan to stop the boats had been difficult to deliver. By October, more migrants had crossed the Channel than in all of 2024. In France, the smugglers changed tactics, loading their boats in shallow waters where police were prevented from intervening. Although the French authorities have also adapted.
It's chaotic, dangerous. A young girl caught in the crush. People close to the boat's propeller. And it's now the police make a snap decision. Removing their heavy body armour, they prepare to wade in. A rare, perhaps risky move. They use knives.
They're slicing it. They're coming in to slice the boat now. The police have come in to slice the boat. Look at that guy's doing.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of sexual assault on a female under 16 years old, so you didn't have to say anything.
The moment on the 8th of July that Hadush Kabatu was arrested in Epping. Police had been called by a woman whose thigh he had grabbed and who'd also seen him touching the leg of a 14-year-old girl. It led to the twice-weekly protests against asylum seekers in Epping that have gone on all summer outside the Bell Hotel. And to the local council unsuccessfully trying to get an injunction ordering the hotel to close to asylum seekers. As the summer went on, the anti-asylum hotel protests that had started in Epping spread. This one in Liverpool was one of the biggest and included a large counter-demonstration.
Nazi scum! Off our street! Nazi scum! Off our street!
In Scotland, there were similar tensions, including in Falkirk, where hundreds of pro- and anti-immigration demonstrators held rival protests. There was what police called racist thuggery in Ballymena in Northern Ireland when 2 Romanian boys were accused of attempted rape. The charges were later dropped. In mid-September, more than 100,000 people joined a march in central London, organised by Tommy Robinson and addressed by Elon Musk.
Whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you.
At times, police struggled to keep the anti-immigration demonstrators and counter-protesters apart.
Police have now lost control of this bit of Trafalgar Square. Tommy Robinson supporters have got within 3 metres of anti-racism protesters, and riot police are having to intervene.
There was a postscript to the summer of protests when Hadush Kabatu, whose sex offences started it all, was wrongly released from custody. He was recaptured, but his case also neatly encapsulated the at times chaotic management of prisons.
For Keir Starmer, the international stage has delivered his most notable political moments.
So can I present the letter from the King to
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
A surprising rapport with President Trump led to a deal on tariffs. A trade deal was done with India, relations with the EU reset.
Britain is back on the world stage, working with our partners, doing deals that will grow our economy.
But at home, setbacks. Angela Rayner, his deputy, resigned. Long by his side, she had to go because she'd failed to pay the right stamp duty on a flat in Hove. There were U-turns too. The decision to strip winter fuel payments from millions reversed. A revolt by Labour MPs.
This is outrageous, man!
The government forced into a humiliating retreat over its plan to cut disability benefits. The budget brought some cheer to Labour's ranks with the end of the 2-child cap on benefits.
We are lifting 450,000 children out of poverty with the end of the 2-child limits.
Growth, down. Investment, down. Business confidence, down. The credibility of the Chancellor, and not just down, through the floor.
Kemi Badenoch unveiled new policies, including a pledge to abolish stamp duty tax on home purchases. But her party is still struggling for traction in the polls. The SNP lost the Hamilton by-election for the Scottish Parliament. Labour surprise winners. Reform UK seized a significant vote share, but the SNP still tops polls ahead of Scottish elections next year. And Plaid Cymru won in Caerphilly, a big by-election boost ahead of coming Senedd elections. Labour lost here for the first time in 100 years. Again, Reform surged. Local elections in England left Liberal Democrats delighted. They now control more councils than the Conservatives. But the big winner was Reform UK. It took 10 councils and its first by-election success, capitalising on discontent at the state of the economy and immigration. Nigel Farage's party has been topping opinion polls, but he's come under pressure recently over claims he made racist, bullying comments at school. He said he didn't directly abuse anyone.
your actions, Mr Gill.
The party's former leader in Wales, Nathan Gill, was sentenced to 10 years for taking bribes from Russian sources. In Zach Polanski, the Greens elected a new leader who's raised their profile. The party claims membership has more than doubled, now surpassing the Conservatives. 2025, the year challengers have surged, politics fractured, the established parties under serious pressure.
Elon Musk had donated at least $270 million to Donald Trump's re-election campaign, making him the largest political donor of the cycle. Donald Trump gave him stewardship of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. There were some who were nervous about Musk's increasingly erratic behaviour, but Trump kept him close. He asked him to take a metaphorical chainsaw to government waste.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
His main target, the US Agency for International Development. And increasingly the president framed the future of the Palestinians in economic rather than humanitarian terms.
I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad, this could be so magnificent.
The Arab states rejected his plan for a Riviera of the Middle East. It was all meaningless while Gaza was being bombed and still under blockade.
Since the last ceasefire collapsed in March, access to aid has become increasingly difficult and dangerous. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a controversial scheme promoted by Israel, which began operating in May. It says it's distributed around 87 million meals since the end of May. That's roughly 1 meal a day for 1.5 million people. Gaza's population is around 2 million. Israel says there's no lack of food, releasing these pictures yesterday showing aid waiting for collection just inside the Gaza Strip. But the world has watched in horror as chaos has erupted at its sites and hundreds of people have been killed. Israel blames Hamas for disrupting the process and stealing the aid.
Some breaking news to bring you now. Israel says it's carried out a military strike against Iran.
The talks to rein in Iran's nuclear program had continued through the spring, but the program was racing ahead. Israel's anxiety grew, and so did the appetite for the military option. Operation Rising Lion was a massive Israeli assault on Iran's nuclear sites and a range of other targets that dealt a significant blow to the Iranian regime. It prompted an immediate retaliation. The United States joined the action a week later, targeting 3 nuclear sites.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
The satellite image shows the damage, but the intelligence is inconclusive. Prime Minister Netanyahu was now emboldened, but the Israelis miscalculated. A September attack on Hamas in Doha angered the US administration and complicated the peace talks which Qatar was mediating. But in the end, it seemed to add new impetus, and a month later, Trump arrived in Israel with a peace plan in his hand.
The Gaza ceasefire came into effect on the 10th of October. Israeli troops withdrew so that they held just over half of the Gaza Strip. Then 20 men, the remaining living Israeli hostages, were returned by Hamas. In exchange, Israel returned some 1,700 Palestinian detainees and 250 prisoners, mostly to Gaza and the occupied West Bank. And there have been delays in advancing to the complicated next stage of President Trump's peace plan. It involves transitional governance and security. It requires Hamas to disarm and for Israel to pull out of more areas of Gaza. For Israelis and Palestinians, there may be a peace plan, but the chances of actual peace still look dim.
Caught on surveillance footage, 2 white vehicles pull into an LA parking lot. This is President Trump's immigration policy in action. As the US Border Patrol agents approach, the workers washing cars down tools and flee. 6 of them are detained. President Trump has long insisted that hardened criminals are the main focus.
You're just taking our people who's working really hard.
But now it's places like this. This detained worker has been with the business for 10 years.
What's your message to President Trump? He has to stop this. We are here maybe because of the American dream.
The raids, led by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, triggered protests. And Los Angeles, with the sporadic and localized scenes of unrest, experienced a highly unusual response. For the first time in 60 years, a US president ordered the National Guard onto the streets of a US city.
It started just like any other university event that Charlie Kirk has done, on the road to becoming one of President Trump's most prominent supporters. But soon after he took to the stage, this.
Oh my God. Go, run, run.
A single shot and Charlie Kirk slumps to the floor, blood pouring from his neck. Panic on the Utah campus.
India says it has launched an attack on 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir.
This is how the morning began. Missile attacks by Pakistan, claiming significant damage, including Indian military facilities. This violent and deadly tit-for-tat exchange over the last 4 days all started because of this attack last month. Gunmen shot dead 26 people in Indian-administered Kashmir, the deadliest attack on civilians in decades.
The civil war in Sudan has triggered a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Tens of thousands, it's believed, have been killed and millions displaced.
The fall of al-Fashir is a major victory for the paramilitaries, a turning point in Sudan's civil war. But it's the evidence of atrocities that has captured world attention. RSF fighters posting videos showing mass killings of unarmed people. Ahmed Osman Ibrahim got shot 3 times as he fled al-Fashir.
There were 7 of us who left together. The 4 of them, they killed them, they beat them and killed them.
Crowds of Liverpool fans had come out to celebrate, but the carnival turned into carnage. A car was making its way along a closed road. A warning that what we are about to show you is distressing.
Oh my God!
Paul Doyle injured 134 people. The dashcam footage revealed he'd lost his temper. He was sentenced to 21 years and 6 months in prison.
On the steps of Heaton Park Synagogue, this is Jihad al-Shami, intent on murder. His car and knife attack began outside the building. Alarmed worshippers barricaded the doors and phoned 999. Now it's known that the attacker rang the police too.
Minutes after the first call was made to GMP, and as firearms officers were making their way to the scene, al-Shami called 999, claiming responsibility for the attack. He also pledged allegiance to Islamic State.
The grief of a Jewish community quickly gave way to fury that anti-Semitism and threats had been ignored for too long.
We do not want you speaking. Shame on you.
Turn our back. Turn your back. Turn your back. Turn your back.
The Australian government were faced with similar anger when 2 months later 15 people were gunned down on Bondi Beach while attending another Jewish festival, Hanukkah, a celebration of renewal snuffed out by extremism.
Buckingham Palace has announced Prince Andrew will lose his title and move out of his residence, Royal Lodge.
The King's statement last night, as ruthless as we have seen Charles III. Andrew remains at Royal Lodge in Windsor, where he's lived since 2003. The details of his departure are still being worked through. He's unlikely to move out for several weeks. The Prince Andrew problem dates back more than 20 years and the start of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But it is the pressure of the past 2 weeks that has prompted such severe sanction from the King. Buckingham Palace needed to take back some control.
2, 1.
Space is no longer just for astronauts. In April, the pop star Katy Perry joined an all-female crew aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. It blasted off from West Texas, carrying Perry on a suborbital flight more than 60 miles above the Earth's surface. But perhaps the most celebrated touchdown, the one scored by the NFL's Travis Kelce, who announced this year his engagement to the stratospheric Taylor Swift. In February, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Washington seeking security guarantees. No one was quite prepared for what came next.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
It set the tone for the rest of the negotiation as the war began to turn in Russia's favour. In Ukraine, this was the year of the drone. The Russians continued their slow, grinding advance, and drones were a persistent threat to soldiers and civilians. In some towns, there are streets now draped with protective nets. Of course, Ukraine also uses drones near the front line and within urban areas of Russia. Some are fixed-wing drones, others look like this one, small quadcopters. And on one particular operation this year, they were devastating.
Ukraine called it Operation Spiderweb. It claimed over 100 drone attacks on military targets across Russia. This image, released by Ukraine, shows how the drones were hidden. Cabins were then placed onto trucks and were transported to locations near the targets. Then, when the time came, the roofs of the cabins were opened remotely and the drones were able to fly out. This video, taken close to Belaya Air Base, shows this happening. As the drone emerges, in the distance, there's already smoke rising from the airbase.
In August, Donald Trump met Vladimir Putin in Alaska, the first meeting between a US and Russian leader in 4 years. But with no meaningful concessions from the Russian president, it renewed concerns that Mr. Trump's eagerness for a peace deal could come at Ukraine's expense. The US impatience for a deal exposed Europe's vulnerability, prompting Germany this year to approve €500 billion in new defence spending. At the same time, under US pressure, NATO allies committed to raising their defence budgets to 5% of GDP by 2035. A shadow war is underway, some of it led by the Russian military, some of it believed to be the work of Russian agents. Drones forced the temporary closures of airports in Denmark, Germany, Belgium. Russian jets lingered over Estonia, and off the UK coast, a Russian intelligence ship was tracking undersea cables. The tensions between the United States and the Europeans deepened this year over the president's peace plan for Ukraine. Publicly, the Europeans were supportive of his talks with Vladimir Putin. Our correspondents tell me, in fact, many were horrified by key elements of the plan they saw as transparently pro-Kremlin. More recently, Washington has reordered its strategic priorities, which begs further questions of this relationship. How serious is it? Well, let's find out, shall we? We can speak to our North America editor, Sarah Smith. I get the sense, Sarah, that when it comes to Ukraine, things are coming to a head. But what are the implications of that for the Europeans?
Recently, the White House published a really lengthy document called the National Security Strategy, which was laying out their foreign policy very broadly for this term. And it was contemptuous, frankly, of European countries. It talked about European nations facing civilizational erasure because they're allowing too many migrants into their countries. It accused them of censoring free speech and trying to stifle political opposition. It was incredibly critical of these nations, which are traditionally America's closest allies.
Sarah, the first Trump term now seems tame compared to Trump 2.0. How would you sum it up?
exhausting, but also for those in the administration, I would imagine, as well as those trying to cover it, because there has been so much action on so many fronts. One constant through it has been the way in which Donald Trump is trying to take more and more power to the executive, make more and more things the president can do without having to go through Congress and pass legislation or get authorization. He'll probably leave the presidency significantly more powerful than when he came to it.
Sarah Smith, thank you. So, 2025, a year defined by Donald Trump, a president prepared to challenge the courts, the media, Congress, the United States' long-standing alliances. Supporters at home and many abroad applaud the boldness and the results. The Gaza peace plan endures. The United States is clearly on a different path. Some hate it. Europe and the UK are not unaffected by it. Old assurances are no longer guaranteed.